Okay, so this is going to be a little deviation from the mainstream compositing. In this small section, I'm going to be talking about how to use the Nuke 3D system to replace the screen content. So to be able to replace the screen content, we actually imported the screen and the screen sort of frame geo, so we can use Nuke 3D system to render out the screen content separately and has the right alpha cutout. Then we're going to put this back to the main compositing stream. So what's going to be involved is we're going to have to what's going to be involved is that we will import the camera, the 3D camera, and the geo of the screen, and then we're just going to replace the texture, technically speaking. So this is the new replaced moving texture for the new screen. As you can see, we have the screen render the same place, and even has the alpha cutout for the screen frame geo. I'm going to walk you through this small Nuke script. So I found this two stock footage showing some very sci-fi futuristic UI animation. And I actually only extracted a small portion from this one. Let me go to that frame. I extracted a more like glitchy portion for this one and to insert it into the screen content. So whenever this as we see, the character actually touched the screen, so I thought it would be cool to have a little screen glitch happening, so to motivate the character to touch the screen. And the main screen animation is the other stock footage. You see a lot of grid, a lot of like this kind of icon animation, and a height field for the terrain and stuff. So the first thing I did is, because I found the original stock footage moves too fast, so the first thing I did a retime to slow it down to half speed, and then I used the time offset to find the part that I need. As you can see here, the stock footage is at 16:9 aspect ratio, but our screen aspect ratio is more of like a vertical situation. So what I did is I actually extracted those two screen geo from the geometry, and I found the UV for those two geometries, so I can find out exactly where I need to replace the screen content with my moving image. After I did the time offset, I just used a transform node and rotate 90 degrees to move the new screen content to exactly where I want it to be. And also I use the roto node just to select, I use the roto node to crop this rectangular screen I need, and I cropped another part to put it below the sort of sphere screen to make it just to make it more interesting. Remember, this one is the original screen texture. This is just for like a coordination where I need to put my new moving texture too. So next step, what I did is, okay, so what I did here is I took the original texture, I removed all the channel. I only need the size and the position for the screen texture, and then I put it underneath and I put my new moving texture on top of the original static texture. I put this underneath because I want to make sure that what I'm doing here goes to the exact right spot on the original texture. So as you can see right now, the original texture is replaced by the original static texture is replaced by my moving image. And the next step is, I think I add a little bit more grid just to make it looks more futuristic. It's a very thin, actually let me just go to this node. You can see I added a layer of a very thin grid, and it did a little color grading, and I did a little color grading. So up to now, like the left screen content is ready to go. And all I need to do now is, because I imported the screen geo into Nuke itself, and all I need to do is just need to pipe this moving texture into the geometry itself. And because the geometry comes in with the UV texture and all the information, so as long as we replace the texture, it should keep all the UV coordinate at the right place. And I did the same thing for the screen right. I did the same thing for the screen on the right. Then here's the part is that whenever you want to use Nuke 3D system, you need to either put a scene node. Basically, a scene node is a place to hold all these geometry and the camera and everything imported for 3D purpose. You need a scene node to hold it. And then we need to use a scanline renderer. It's basically a renderer to render out everything you see from the camera you imported. By default, scanline render has 3 pipes. The one, of course, is from which camera you want to render out the whole thing. The second one is you can either connect to individual geo or you can connect to a scene. It's just a place to hold multiple geometries. Here's another important part is that I also exported the frame geo. I use a film matte shader that comes in with Nuke. The film matte shader is basically like a wrap shader in Maya or Max. It's basically just to occlude the part that it just used as a geo occlusion. It would just remove the part on the screen that should be occluded by the geometry. As you can see, part of the screen is actually occluded by the frame, so we need to do the same thing to the screen content. And especially here, the sort of like this cube in the middle will occlude the content on the screen, on the right screen, so we need to use a film matte to put on the geo. It would just be put in front of the right screen so we don't render out that part. So the scanline render, we get a result something like this. If we go to frame 36, so we can see exactly what's happening here. So you see right now the right screen has been occluded by the geometry itself. So without the geomat, we will have a complete screen, and in order for us to come back into the main compositing stream, we'll probably need to do a roto or stuff. So this is just to use the 3D Geo as a quote-unquote roto to occlude whatever not supposed to be shown in 3D. Because when we do the moving texture, we didn't actually feel the whole area comes in the UV texture. If we check the alpha channel, you see in this huge rectangle that we only feel part of the screen. Even though what's going to happen is that even though it looks fine in RGB, but if we check the alpha of the result from the scanline render, we notice that the new rendered footage has run scalpha, because we want the alpha to fill the whole screen instead of only the moving image content. So here I use a very stupid way to fix this problem, is that I use the same, I just put those 2 screen geo into another scene node, and I did the same thing, except this time I didn't give the screen any texture. So this will render out a proper sort of gray shaded result, which has the proper alpha. And then I just use this alpha and pipe it into the previous one where the actual screen content is. I've replaced the alpha has the missing parts with this new gray shaded alpha render, but only the alpha channel. So right now we have our new screen content prepared. We have the moving texture, we have the proper alpha, and we use the geometry to occlude the foreground element. So now it's composited and ready to put it back to the main compositing stream.
Purchase genuine tutorial. Enjoy the question answering from course tutor in the long term. Join the exclusive Facebook group and learn from each other. Also, you can sign up with yihu.com. Search for the course ID. Obtain the full learning courseware, project files. Follow us on Facebook. Get closer to become a master in CG field.